Retro-Sepctacular.com. The cannabis community is a diverse set of people from all walks of life, conservative and liberal, black and white, straight and gay, rich and poor, and everyone in between. Learn more about the people we are freeing from adult marijuana prohibition in our Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, 29 after the hour, continuing our 500th show, Retro-Spectacular, by looking back at some of the events and transitions that have occurred over my 8 years on the radio. After the XM satellite gig ended because of the merger of XM and Sirius, they had twice as many hosts. I was one of the ones they let go. I was fortunate to land in the gig for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, which had a daily audio stash podcast. This is a clip from my very first podcast.
Yes, it's time for our local normal chapter profile, and I hope you can all forgive me for staying close to home. Having just started the podcast here, I haven't had the opportunity to get in touch with all the other 49 states out there that are working hard to end adult marijuana prohibition. So we're going to go here to my home state of Oregon, where the activists of Oregon NORML are working hard to fight against the latest efforts in the legislature to discriminate against medical marijuana patients. We sat down with the executive director of Oregon NORML and a newly elected member of the NORML National Board of Directors, Ms. Madeline Martinez, by telephone at her home in Portland, Oregon. We're speaking with Madeline Martinez, the executive director of Oregon NORML, and congratulations are in order. I understand you've just been elected to the National Board of Directors for NORML.
Yes, that is true. Thank you so much, Russ. I appreciate you mentioning that. Yes, it was a little bit of a shock, but yeah, I have finally been elected to that board. It's very exciting, very thrilling.
Well, it's good to see that we're getting, we're embracing diversity on the national level here. You're, of course, one of the leading NORML organizations out there in the country, especially one of the few headed by, I believe, a minority woman. So this is a great news for NORML, I believe.
Yes, the first Latina. So that is quite a thrill.
Yeah, we always try to reach out to all audiences here, and of course the minority audiences would need the most outreach because they're, of course, the people that are most affected by our draconian drug laws.
That's correct, Russ. As you know, the majority of people that are incarcerated for marijuana offenses are, in fact, minorities. My people are hit really, really hard. You know, I'm Mexicana, and that seems to be a big one.
Well, one of the main focuses of the Oregon chapter of NORML, I understand, is the medical marijuana law. Oregon has one of the best medical marijuana laws, under many people's opinion, in the United States. So tell the listeners here to the NORML Daily Audio Stash, what is it that Oregon NORML is involved with in helping people with medical marijuana?
Well, one of the things that we're involved with that has become the most successful, of course, is the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards, which is a strain evaluation. And secondly, we really take the lead here in Oregon on legislative issues. We have a legislative analyst, Alicia Williamson, and we work at the legislature to try to prevent and protect the Oregon medical marijuana law from being, let's say, taken apart by our opponents.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there listening who are in the states, one of the 38 states that don't have a medical marijuana law, and I know that they're probably, just wishing they could just get a medical marijuana law, but, that's not when the battle ends. It seems to us that once you get the law, that's when the real fights begin.
That's right, Russ. The big problem we have is that we do have opponents that think that medical marijuana is the road to legalization. And nothing could be further from the truth. There's so many of us that suffer from debilitating medical conditions, and this is the only medicine that you can use that doesn't leave you feeling that you're in a drug-induced stupor, but actually allows you to live a nice, comfortable quality of life by tempering your pain. 75% of the people that are enrolled in the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program are enrolled because they suffer from severe chronic pain.
Yeah, it's amazing when we can prescribe all sorts of opiate-based medications that anyone would have a problem with the recommendations for medical marijuana. But apparently some of your opponents out there in the state of Oregon have been raising quite a ruckus at the legislature. And for those of you who don't follow Oregon politics, there's normally a legislative session every odd year. This year they declared an emergency session. And tell the folks about what some of their tactics were here against medical marijuana in this year's special session.
Well, in this year's special session that was supposed to be dedicated to our struggling budget, instead some of our opponents and Representative Mike Schaffler of Happy Valley here in Oregon has decided to take it upon himself to introduce legislation that would actually harm patients by not allowing them to test for drug impairment, but rather for using a urinalysis to determine if they have cannabis metabolites in their system.
Right, and of course the cannabis metabolites don't...
causing patients, hard-working disabled Oregonians, to face losing their job, their livelihood.
Absolutely, and Oregon, for the people that don't know, has over, what is it now, 16,000 registered patients?
You know, the last number I looked at, Russ, is very close to 17,000.
Wow, and so we're talking about taking 17,000 people who just happen to use marijuana rather than some other drug to relieve their pain and suffering, and hanging up the No Medical Marijuana Patients Need Apply sign at the employment office. Some of the bills out there were pretty draconian, weren't they?
They certainly were, and the biggest problem that we have is here we are, hardworking Oregonians, disabled, but we don't want to go on the welfare rolls. We want to be productive members of society and feed our families, and we're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking for equal protection under the law.
Yeah, that's always the downside of working with the marijuana issue, is that marijuana, unlike so many of the other drugs that they might test for, remains in one's system for anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days following ingestion. So, of course, there's no way that a medical marijuana patient could pass a test that's based on testing for marijuana metabolites. Now, I understand we also have in Oregon an ally who is working toward the impairment issue.
Yes, Representative Peter Buckley from Ashland, Oregon, is working really hard with us. We also have the great Representative Diane Rosenbaum, who's also one of our champions, and they are both working on impairment testing for the 2009 legislative session.
So that's an interview from 2008 with Madeline Martinez. She went on to head up the world-famous Cannabis Cafe here in the state of Oregon, which will be rising from the ashes again, I'm sure, very, very soon. Now, we continue on with 2008 and 2009. As I continued on in my career with NORML, I got the chance to interview many, many great guests, and this opportunity was one of my favorites. It was Tommy Chong, my interview with him from 2009.
One of the questions that always has to get asked here, and it's been a long-standing rumor, as to whether or not there'd be any future reunions of the Cheech and Chong comedy team, perhaps in a movie.
Well, we're talking again. That's one good thing. We had a 420 reunion at a movie house when they screened Up in Smoke.
Oh, good.
And Cheech was there, and he was very cordial to me, and, he's nice. He's not swearing at me anymore. so
that's a positive step, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a positive step, and it looks good. We're not. I'm not going to make any announcements until it's actually happening. But it's in the works for sure.
Well, I would think, with the recent success of so many marijuana-themed movies, the Harold and Kumar series, for example, I mean, the public would be just aching for that. I'm sure you guys would make a mint if there was a new Tommy Chong and Cheech movie.
Yeah, I have no doubt whatsoever, that we would be doing very well.
All right. And, looking back to your time in prison, talking about this Operation Pipe Dreams, you spent 9 months in a federal correctional facility. What were some of the lessons that you took out of that, being within the system like that?
Well, it was a life-changing event for me. First of all, I had to reach into my spiritual bag, that I'd always had with me, but I never really went there. When you're a successful movie actor, you're kind of busy with the fame and the fortune. but it slowed me down enough to make me realize, what's really important in life. And then I utilized the time to read a lot, and then I also wrote a book, the I Chong. I wrote that in prison, and even the documentary, AKA, there's a film clip of me or a news clip of me talking about jail, and I said, well, who's to say that jail's a bad thing? You go to jail, you write a great book, That's exactly what I did. And I was talking about that back in the 70s. So the prison thing really was, I would say without a doubt, without hesitation, that was the single most important thing that's happened to my life.
That was Tommy Chong from 2009. Now, as I continued doing the normal daily audio stash, I learned one thing, and that was doing a podcast that was recorded was much more difficult than doing a live show. With a live show, you just take the mistakes and you move on, but with the recorded podcast, you always try to get it perfect. Unfortunately, my second live show took place at the Portland Hempstock, and I had to deliver live breaking news of Jack Herer's heart attack. This was Jack Herer's last speech right before that heart attack.
This man is a hero and an icon and a trailblazer, a pioneer. He's the author of the book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Really, if you think about it, he's one of the founding fathers of the modern cannabis re-legalization movement. And I want you to put your hands together and show your love. Are you coming around this way? For the one and only Jack Herer, everybody. Jack Herer.
Some of these people know me from 1984. I came up here to Oregon and Washington. We did an initiative over and over and over and over and over again. We bought a store, we put on the store over and over again, and we put on the ballot, and we bought in 1998